Hello all and welcome back to VARC 100, the free practice course for CAT verbal preparation. We resumed this series after long. I was occupied by some family commitment. This is RC number 19. As usual, the link was shared, the test link was shared over a Telegram group. It was also sent to your registered email IDs. You may enroll for this free course on our portal. The link to our portal is mentioned in the description box of this video. Let's begin. A quick synopsis of the passage. In the first paragraph, author tells you that the number of species increases from the polar regions to the equator. He explores reasons for the same. In second paragraph, he introduces hypothesis 1, which proposes that the polar climate has been interrupted more frequently by ice ages. Therefore, the species living in the polar regions did not have enough time to evolve. That is a reason why we get to see fewer species in the polar regions, particularly in the Arctic. In the next paragraph, he introduces hypothesis 2, which states that solar energy in the tropical regions leads to higher rate of growth and reproduction, which further leads to higher availability of biomass, which in turn leads to higher number of species. Now, please note, author finds both hypothesis 1 and 2 problematic, and he rejects them both. In the next paragraph, he introduces hypothesis 3, which ascribes the higher number of species in the tropical regions to higher food availability, which ensures survival of multiple species despite competition. But again, author finds hypothesis 3 problematic as well. Finally, in the last two paragraphs, author introduces hypothesis 4, which states that the rate of speciation is higher than the rate of extinction in the tropical regions, which means if one species gets extinct in the tropical regions, 4 new species evolve in the same time. But that is not the case in the Arctic regions, in the polar regions. Therefore, we get to see higher species in the tropics. Author finds this hypothesis 4, plausible, reasonable. He supports this hypothesis. So clearly the passage is subjective. He rejects 3 hypotheses, accepts or supports or favors 1. He also explains the mechanism behind the same. He tells us that isolation of a population subgroup in the Arctic region will lead to extinction of the same, but it will not lead to extinction in the tropical regions. So if a small population of a particular species gets isolated in the tropical region, it will survive and it will adapt to the conditions, climatic conditions, thereby evolving as a new species altogether. That is the reason behind higher number of species in the tropical regions. So nice passage and easy read as well. To the questions. Number 1, what is the main idea of the passage? Option A, at present, no single hypothesis explaining the latitudinal gradient of the number of species is more widely accepted than any other. So basically, option A says all hypotheses are equal. They are in terms of popularity. No one is more accepted than any other. Well, this could be factually correct, but this is not the main idea of the passage. The main idea of the passage is author's point of view, which is that hypothesis 4 seems more promising. It is more plausible. So option A, not the main idea, maybe a minor detail. Option B, the tropical climate is more conducive to promoting species diversity than Arctic climate is. Well, this is nothing but hypothesis 3. Tropical climate is more favorable for higher number of species. But hypothesis 3 is rejected by the author. He finds it problematic. Therefore, this option B is contrary to author's point of view. This can't be the main idea of the passage. Option C, several explanations have been suggested for global patterns in species distribution, but a hypothesis involving rate of speciation seems most promising. That is exactly what the author says. The hypothesis involving rates of speciation, hypothesis 4, seems most promising. That is exactly the main point. Easy answer choice to identify. Option D, despite the differences, the various hypotheses are similar in the prediction that the gradient can be expected to increase. Wait. All four hypotheses predict that the gradient will increase. The difference between the number of species in the Arctics and the tropics is likely to increase. So if the difference between the number of species is 10 today, if there are 10 species in the Arctic, 20 in the tropics, this difference of 10 will increase in the future. An alien idea. We don't get to see this idea anywhere in the passage. Question number 2. Which of the following situations is most consistent with species energy hypothesis? That is hypothesis 2 here. Okay. Hypothesis 2, as we saw, proposes that more solar energy means more reproduction, means more biomass, means more number of species. Okay. Option A. The many plants in a large agricultural tract represent a limited range of species. There are multiple plants in an agricultural, so basically in an agricultural tract, there are many plants, but they represent limited range of species. Now wait, how is it related to hypothesis 2 at all? This does not talk about solar energy. This does not talk about rate of growth or reproduction. It does not talk about biomass availability. So option A does not talk about any of the variables mentioned in hypothesis 2. So unrelated to the question. Option B, an animal species experiences a death rate almost as rapid as its rate of growth and reproduction. Now please note, option B effectively says that if the rate of growth and reproduction is higher for a particular species, its death rate is also higher. So do we have more biomass available because of death, or do we have less biomass available because of death? We don't know. And therefore, there is an ambiguity. There is an ambiguity in this answer choice as to the availability of biomass. If I were to predict, if my scientific sense were to predict anything, a higher death rate because of higher rate of reproduction or growth should actually mean that they are balancing each other out. They're cancelled. The effect is cancelled out. Therefore, it weakens hypothesis 2, which proposes that higher reproduction should lead to higher biomass and higher number of species. So option B is either ambiguous, and if we were to think logically, it could also weaken hypothesis 2 rather than strengthen it, support it. Okay. Option C, within the small number of living organisms in a desert, many different species are represented. So if there are 10 organisms in desert, only 10, the total population, these are 4 different types of organisms. The number of species is 4 within this 10. How is it related to hypothesis 2 at all? So this is again unrelated. Unrelated. In an Arctic region, in an Arctic tundra, the plants and animals exhibit a slow rate of growth and reproduction. Okay, if the rate of growth and reproduction is slow in the Arctic region, it accounts for low biomass availability, which further can account for therefore fewer number of species or fewer species. So option D is consistent with hypothesis 2, which says that higher growth and reproduction leads to higher biomass in tropical regions and therefore higher number of species. So option D is consistent. It is corresponding to the same idea. Correct answer option D. As presented in the passage, the principles of the time theory most strongly support which one of the following predictions. Now please note, time theory proposes that because of frequent interruption by ice ages, the Arctic animals did not have enough time to evolve. The Arctic species did not have enough time to evolve because of frequent interruption by ice ages. Okay. Option A, in the absence of additional ice ages, therefore, the number of species in the Arctic region should increase. Exactly. If interruption by ice age is the reason behind low number of species, in absence of more ice ages, the number of species in the Arctic region should increase. Option A is supported by time theory. Hypothesis 1. Option B, no future ice ages are likely to change the climatic conditions that currently characterize temperate region. So basically option B says that future ice ages are not likely to change the climate in the temperate regions. This kind of prediction is never proposed by the time theory. Hypothesis 1. So this is unrelated or extreme. All that we can infer from the time theory is that maybe the temperate regions will be not affected as much as the Arctic regions would be. But that does not mean they will not be affected at all. So no future ice ages are likely to change the climate. The climatic conditions are not likely to change at all. This is an extreme statement. Probably it is going to be affected. Climate is going to change in the temperate regions as well, but the effect will be more pronounced in the Arctic regions. That's what time theory says. Option C, if no further ice ages occur, climatic conditions at high latitudes, that is, high latitudes means the Arctic regions. If no further ice ages occur, the climatic conditions at high latitudes might eventually resemble those at tropical latitudes. Wait, the climate will become similar in the in the Arctic region. The climate will become similar to that in the tropical region. This kind of prediction is alien to the passage. The climate will become same. Can't be inferred. The number of species will increase if the interruption by ice age is removed. That variable is removed. Okay. Researchers will continue to find many more new species in the tropical regions than in the Arctic regions. Tempting choice, because this is explicitly written as a fact in the passage. However, this is not related to time theory. So option D is mentioned here as a general fact and not as something proposed by time theory in particular. So not related to the question. Does not answer the question. Doesn't answer the question. It's not related to time theory. Okay. Which of the following, if true, most clearly weakens rate of speciation hypothesis, which is hypothesis 4. Okay. So we have to weaken hypothesis 4. Now, what does hypothesis 4 says? 4 say? It says that if a particular species, some organisms of a particular species are isolated in the tropical regions, they will be able to survive. But in the Arctic region, they will get extinct. Isolation, therefore, will lead to extinction in the Arctic regions, but it will not lead to extinction in the tropical regions. We have to weaken this hypothesis. Okay. Option A, a remote subgroup of a tropical species is reunited with the original population and it proves unable to interbreed with the members of the original population. This is something proposed by hypothesis 4. So it actually supports hypothesis 4. It supports hypothesis 4 rather than weaken it. Option B, investigation of a small area of a tropical rainforest reveals that many competing species are able to coexist on the same range of resources. It actually supports. It supports hypothesis 3, but does not weaken hypothesis 4. We are supposed to weaken hypothesis 4. So you have to have that clarity in mind. Which variables am I looking for? If you have to weaken hypothesis 4, you have to weaken the isolation mechanism. You have to prove that isolation in the Arctic regions may not lead to extinction, or isolation in the tropical regions may also lead to extinction, something like that. But isolation is a variable in hypothesis 4, and we have to keep account of that variable. A correlation between higher energy influx, larger populations, and lower probability of local extinction is definitely established. If so, the relation between solar energy and number of species is established, it will only serve to support hypothesis 2. But again, it will not weaken hypothesis 4. Please note that. Most of the isolated subgroups now, option 4 talks about the mechanism, the variable of isolation. Most of the isolated subgroup within a tropical zone are found to experience extinction. Okay. The very hypothesis was that in the tropical regions, isolation of a subgroup does not lead to extinction. In the Arctic region, it does. But option D says it is an example of a species that gets extinct upon isolation of a particular subgroup. So option D weakens, challenges, questions, casts doubt on hypothesis 4. Last question. Okay, in your test there was no option, there was no question 6, so we are not going to discuss question 6. Which of the following inferences about the biological characteristics of a temperate zone grassland is most strongly supported by the passage? Temperate zone grassland. What can be inferred about a temperate zone grassland? Okay, it has more different species than does a tropical zone for weight. Polar regions, Arctic, then temperate zone, then tropical zone. The number of species increases like that. So a temperate zone is not going to have more species than tropical one. It is going to have more species than the Arctic one. Option A is contrary to what the passage proposes. Okay. Option B, its climatic conditions have been severely interrupted, severely, in the past by succession of ice. For the Arctic regions, it could be true, but for the temperate regions, no, it has not been severely interrupted. So extreme, and also contrary to what the passage says. If it has a large amount of biomass, it also has a large number of different species. It could be true, okay. But wait, this is hypothesis 3, which is rejected by the author. It is hypothesis 3, which is rejected by the author. So we can't say that this is supported by the passage. No, it is actually rejected by the passage. And question is specific, therefore, in that regard. It is about author's point of view, passage's point of view. Option D, it has a larger regional pool of species than does an Arctic grassland. Exactly. Author says that it is the regional pool. It is the regional pool which accounts for diversity. Therefore, option D is supported by author's point of view or by the passage. So this is a nice little read. I hope you enjoyed this exercise. Keep watching for more. Keep spreading word about TVM and this free practice course. There's also good news. We are going to come with the next batch, a fresh batch for CAT 2022 preparation. The notification for the fresh batch is going to be out soon, most probably tomorrow or the day after. Those of you who want to enroll for this course, of course, this is going to be a comprehensive course for CAT verbal preparation again. Those of you who want to enroll for this course, please keep following this space. Thank you very much. Cheers to learn.